I would like to start by thanking the Basel Institute on Governance for inviting me to speak today about collective action, a topic that is at the center of so much of what we do. As you may know, and as Vanessa just said, I took up the post of head of the anti-corruption division at the OECD just a few weeks ago. And it is an honor and a privilege to speak among such distinguished guests here today. Before I deliver my remarks, I want to express my heartfelt condolences for the tragic loss of Greta Fenner 2 months ago. I never had the pleasure of meeting Greta in person, but of course I knew of her work. And I know that she was a woman of action who was both passionate and strategic about anti-corruption, about the fight against corruption. Her passing is obviously a great loss for this community. And to the many here who knew Greta and worked with her, I want to convey my sincere sympathy. I also want to add my admiration, as Peter Maurer said, for the team at the Basel Institute, who have persevered in putting on this important conference and on carrying forward other work despite their personal loss. Turning to the topic of today's discussion, regulatory and normative approaches in this new era for collective action. Because corruption is complex and multifaceted phenomenon, steps taken by a single actor, while important, are likely to have limited effect. In recent years, collective action has become more prominent in the global anti-corruption landscape, with the recognition that by joining forces, stakeholders have the potential to have much greater value in the long term than they would alone. So the fight against corruption, to be effective and sustainable, requires the involvement of all relevant stakeholders, government and non-government alike. Over the past 10 years, it has become abundantly clear that civil society, academia, and of course the private sector have a crucial role to play along with governments. Collective action has the power to bring these stakeholders together, to unite them around a common goal, and to help them coordinate their actions to achieve that goal. The Working Group on Bribery, which oversees the implementation of the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention, has been at the forefront of shaping a normative framework on collective action. As you may know, the Anti-Bribery Convention is the only internationally binding treaty requiring the criminalization of bribery of foreign public officials in international business transactions. In 2021, the Working Group on Bribery adopted the anti-bribery recommendation, introducing new standards to complement the convention and its related instruments. These standards center around the key issues that have emerged in the anti-corruption area in the last 15 years. One of these key issues is collective action. The 2021 recommendation is one of the first international instruments that explicitly recommends collective action in an anti-bribery standard. It calls for countries to, quote, consider fostering, facilitating, engaging, or participating in anti-bribery collection action initiatives with private and public sector representatives, as well as civil society organizations aiming to address foreign bribery and bribe solicitation. In addition, collective action is associated in the 2021 recommendation with raising companies' awareness of foreign bribery and helping them to resist extortion and solicitation. When the time came to update its standards, the Working Group on Bribery heard concerns from the private sector and civil society that they must be better supported when they strive to do business ethically, but find themselves confronted with demands for bribes, or worse, extortion. Hearing these concerns, the working group saw collective action as a way to provide support to the private sector while remaining within the bounds of the convention, which focuses on the supply side of bribery. The collective action standards promise to open new avenues for the public and private sectors alongside civil society to address solicitation for bribes and small facilitation payments. This development is significant because the anti-bribery recommendation is one of the legal instruments included in the peer review mechanism of the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention that the 46 parties to the convention must undergo. This could therefore provide an entry point in future monitoring reports for private sector and civil society to identify efforts to foster collective action against bribery. As the working group will soon start reflecting on its next and fifth phase of monitoring, collective action is an area that could receive more of its attention in the future. Understanding how collective action can be harnessed to combat foreign bribery is critical to implementing the new OECD recommendation. In fact, the OECD Anti-Corruption Division is already engaged in several work streams to make these standards on collective action a reality. The OECD is partnering with the Basel Institute on Governance to promote collective action under the Siemens Integrity Initiative by producing a report mapping out successful collective action initiatives, challenges, and potential ingredients for replicability. While recognizing the growing momentum around collective action, it's also important to acknowledge that it's not a panacea. Our experience shows that collective action is challenging both to foster and to sustain, and evidence of success remains scarce. It's therefore crucial to take stock of existing initiatives and assess what has been successful, and on the other hand, what can be improved, in order to advance the state of knowledge on collective action and to disseminate best practices. Thanks to our operational work in a number of countries, we're also learning through practice and drawing on lessons learned in different regions of the world. In Southeast Asia, as Peter mentioned, the OECD and the Basel Institute are helping to build a community of practice, promote peer learning, and disseminate good practices. I'm pleased to acknowledge that the recipient of last year's Asia Pacific Collection Action Award, the Thai Collective Action Against Corruption Initiative, which is represented here today. Another example of our operational work comes in the MENA region, where we are working closely with the government of Morocco to deploy collective action in the renewable energy sector. The OECD is also engaging at the global level with the Anti-Corruption Leaders Hub, which is an important multi-stakeholder platform for executive-level managers, alongside government leaders and civil society champions, to advocate innovative solutions to both ingrained and emerging corruption challenges. This is part of a global initiative supported by the United States to galvanize the private sector in the fight against corruption. As we pursue these projects, taking stock of current initiatives and building empirical knowledge in regions around the world, we aim to help position collective action as a norm to fight corruption. If we're able to develop that norm, it will be due to the combined effort of all of us and of people not in this room. As the new head of the OECD Anti-Corruption Division, I'm committed to supporting the working group in its efforts to fight foreign bribery, and to do so in collaboration with our partner government and non-governmental stakeholders around the world. I'm so glad for this reason to be part of this conference, and I look forward to expanding our collaboration on collective action with the Basel Institute on Governance and with other partners. Thank you.